In the previous video, I showcased some basic lateral movement techniques executed from mid-XC2. Although it was super nice stream, and I hope you guys learned a lot, there was one main problem with it, and it was the lack of custom service binaries. We needed such binaries because of two cases. The first one is when we were doing impacted PSExec, and second when we were doing SC manual creation from mid-XC2 itself. In first case, although PSExec worked, we need custom binaries in case the environment has enforced endpoint protection systems. Then the default's not gonna work. On the second page, when we were needing the custom service binaries was during the SC creation from mid-XC2, because with the normal binaries, yes, we got a shell, but we can die 20 seconds later because, it was not a service executable. With that being said, today we're gonna be doing just that. We're gonna learn how to create, compile, and execute service binary, so stick around to the end. Alright, as you may expect, the service binary code is slightly different from the normal PE code, and we're gonna dive into that now. Here we have different methods, and they are all explained and signatured here. The first method is service main, we have a control handler, and we have init service. Then we need to define service status, and then service status handle. With that, we would need only two libraries, which is stdr.h and windows.h, which are standard libraries for accessing standard functions like printf and virtualalloc, for example. Then we have the main method there, but imagine that we have two main methods. We have the main method, and of course we have the service main method. Now, in order for a binary to be accepted and executed as a service, it would need such method in order to operate. Now there, we need to call the service registry handler and to define the service name. In that case, it is my service. Now now as a best practice, it's okay to save the file exactly as the service name.exe, so it's just better understandable by the Windows OS. With that in mind, then we need to define all the metadata for the service to be accepted, and then we call the init service, from where our custom logic actually lies. In that case, the init service function is going to only do PowerShell invoke web request on controlled machine from my side, just to prove that it works. Now here, I initially started to develop that to spawn calculator, but I discovered with the current configuration and code, the RC or the code execution is actually blind. What that means is that if I do calc.exe here, I can see calc.exe as a process, but it's not going to be spawned on my screen. However, when I do PowerShell IWR, I can indeed confirm that there's some kind of web request going on, which proves the whole point of the thing. Now there's also the control handler method, and I believe this method is responsible for controlling the service operation, including the service stop and service shutdown. So whenever you want to remove service, this method is called in order for service to be taken down. Now, with that being said, pretty much we have all the metadata for the service which is defined here. We're gonna compile that, save it with the exact same name, set up a remote server, and let's see if we can have some connection, right? Now, in order to get the thing going, I'm gonna first go to my Kali Linux machine, then do ifconfig super quick with ETH0 just to get my interface IP address. In that case, it's 0.157. I'm gonna go back to my command VM where the code actually is. I'm gonna scroll a little bit down to my custom logic, and I'm gonna swap the IP super quick. Then I need to obviously recompile the binary, and while it's recompiling, I'm gonna start the simple Python HTTP server with python -m http.server 8000 with just simple port. Now I'm gonna make sure that the port is also correct, and it is, and now the service exe is actually compiled. So I can do it like that. I can open CMDR. Come on, I can go to cd to my binary, and then I can move service exe to my service. And yes, I want to override it. Now with that, actually I make a mistake because I want to be case sensitive. So in that case, I'm going to just recompile super quick and then just again rerun the command. So in that case, move service exe to my service.exe. After I run that, we can indeed see that we have a binary called myservice.exe, and now it's time to actually register it to the Windows services and then execute it. So I can do screate my service, let's call it like that. Bin path is going to be equals quotes and then the path to my service, which in that case is this thing right here. Alright, slash and my service.exe. With that, the SC is created, which means the service is created, and it's super interesting because if you open that with Process Hacker, when you create a service, you're gonna get a notification that is there. Now, before I run that, I want to see if my previous services for testing are done, because I don't want to make a conflict with my machine. So my service, it's actually there, so I can try to actually remove it. We open a new prompt as administrator, like that. Let's do sc delete my service. And of course, don't make a typo. Alright. And now the service should be gone, and indeed the provider of the path tells us that it's gone. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is that when you operate with medium integrity, that's not gonna work. So if I run that now, we can see that we have error 5, which generally means access denied. Here I can do -all, and we can easily observe we are inside medium integrity level. However, here we are on high integrity level, and in that case it's gonna work. So I'm gonna go there and copy the exact same command, so I can run that. I can paste it in here. We can see the service started successfully. Now the next thing we need is to just start the service and see if we can get the incoming request. So I can do sc start my service, no make typo now, and pretty much that's it. When I run it, we can see start pending. When we go back to the Kali machine, we can in theory see it works. Now I intentionally designed the requested endpoint to be it works, just so we can distinguish it and we know for sure that it works. Now let's weaponize that. Now in order to weaponize it, the first thing we obviously want to do is to actually create a payload. In that case, I'm going to once again use the MITXC2, so I'm going to create a new payload, go on the Windows tab, go on the Apple, but in that case I'm going to specify shellcode. Then I'm going to click next. I'm going to add all my commands. Next, I'm going to specify HTTP because that's what my listener is all about. I'm going to specify my IP address 0157, leave the port as it is, and click next. Now the next thing we need to do is actually need to manually rename the file to be apple.bin. Actually, I'm going to call that test.bin. I'm going to create a payload. While that thing is being generated, on my command VM, I have modified the code to contain the SMB staging part from my previous video. If you are more interested in that, click on the top right corner and you can have more details. Now, here what that thing is going to do is I have defined one method which is called readBin, and that method is going to actually open an SMB share and then actually trying to allocate the needed bytes into a specific variable, and then we're gonna execute it with the direct pointer. If you want to learn more about how the direct pointer works, you can also click the link into the description, here, where I have specified the blog post for my direct pointer blog, so I hope you enjoy it. Now with that, we need to make a little bit of modifications for the code, because I've defined the code to be compatible for things like reverse shell from MSF Venom, but in that case the mythic beacon is way more bigger. So for that case, I'm gonna first download the file, then I'm gonna open up a terminal, I'm gonna sit into desktop and move downwards test.bin to here. I'm gonna do ls-la and see its bytes. In that case, it's that much. So then we're going to hop back into the command VM, and now let's modify the settings. First, we need to modify the buffer variable, be that. Then we need to modify obviously the reading part, and we need to explicitly say how many bytes we want the thing to read. So the read file API, we can specify the number of bytes, and the last thing we need to specify is again the size of both is correct. So pretty much, I believe that's about to be it. So what our code is gonna do, it is gonna first invoke PowerShell IWR just to see that it was executed successfully. Then it's going to read the remote share, get the payload inside from test.bin inside the buffer variable, copy that to memory, and execute it with direct pointer. So let's give it a try. For that to work, I'm going to first need to set up a SMB server. So I'm gonna do in packet SMB server into current directory share, or actually, what was the syntax? It was the first is the share name and share path. So in that case, it is share into the current directory. Then I want to specify SMB2 support because that's super needed flag. Then TS, then debug just to see what the hell is going on. So after I run it, my SMB server is now supposed to be started. So I can go back to my command VM and redo the procedure. So here on my CMDR, I'm gonna first stop my service. Then I'm going to remove it. And then we need to recreate the process. So for that, I'm going to recompile the code from my Visual Studio. Here I want to actually remove my service.exe and move service.exe to my service.exe, just the project name is different. And then I can recreate the same command. So sc create my service beanpad and the exact path to my service.exe, like that. We should see the notification, there it is, that is being. And then we can define start. And let's see if it's gonna work. Start, let me go back, let me go to the command VM. Then I forgot to start, the HTTP server to receive the incoming request, but that's not important. What is important is that it now works and we have a beacon. So here we have a standard operating beacon from system integrity. We can define sleep 0 and start to chain and execute commands. So my ifconfig and so on and so on and so on. So now let's translate that to our previous example from the stream and let's see if we can do lateral movement using this binary. I'm pausing the video just to say massive thanks to my Patreon sponsors. If you also have further appreciation to my work, don't hesitate to become a Patreon. When you do so, you're gonna get first access to special Discord group, which is gonna allow you to request videos and blog posts on demand, as well as access to some Patreon chats. Also, you're gonna get added to my sponsorship organization in GitHub, where you will see Shadowburn, my private packer, alongside with other hidden gems, which I think you're gonna find them useful. Thanks so much, and moving on. Okay, now in that case I have a beacon from SQO2 and we have exactly the same network as before. And now what we want to do is try to laterally move to a DC, but this time specify a stable shell. Now what we're gonna do is first we're gonna set up the sleep timer to be 0, just so it's easier to do so. The next step is I want to showcase a super nice trick which I recently found out, actually during the previous video, and the trick is to remotely upload files to remote machines when you have the permission to do it. So for instance, the K2ZAT in that case is the main admin, but this can be anything from local user or previous users against specific machine accounts. And now what I can do is I can do upload, and here I can select a file. Then I can go to the desktop itself and then specify my service.exe. I have already translated it from my command VM to my Kali Linux machine. I can open that, but now I'm not going to specify the host, but the destination. So I can directly do dco1 eosec.local, and then I can literally copy that or upload it inside the C share. So let's call that my service.exe. I can task that, and since I'm a domain admin, it was successfully uploaded there. I can verify that by doing shell dir dco1 eosec.local, and I want to see the C share. So if everything is alright, I should be able to see my service.exe, there it is. And now the next part is how to manually create a service from Mythic C2 itself. So that's also super nice work. So shout out to it's a feature and all the Mythic teams and all the Mythic creators. So I can do SC, type Shift and Enter, and it's gonna give me a pop-up menu. Now from there I can define what option I need. For instance, I want to create a service. I can define the computer to be dco1.eosec.local, then the bean path to be C. Sorry, my bad. I can do SC, Shift and Enter again. The computer name, again dco1.eosec.local. Bean path is going to be C, my service.exe. Service name is going to be my service as before. Then of course you're gonna click on the create, which I'm not sure if that's supposed to be it. And now the display name is again my service. When I run that, in theory, I should be able to see the remote service there. And actually there it is. Now the next part is to start it. So I can do SC, Shift and Start again. I can go there, but in that case I'm not gonna specify create, but start. I can run it, then the service name is going to be my service as before. Computer is dco1 eosec.local and start is enabled. After I run it, I need to make sure that my SMB service is there. And actually, I'm not sure if that's enabled on the firewall, but let's give it a try. So I can do task and let's see if something happens. In that case, it is. We have the incoming authentication of the domain controller itself, and in theory, we should be able to see a beacon. but it's not. So let me try to debug what's going on, and I'll be right back. Alright, so it turned out the issue to be local firewall plus my firewall settings, and I'm really not sure what happened because I was able to see the incoming traffic, but I was not able to get the beacon, or I also tried viewing the remote share, but I was not able to, although I got the hash. So it was some kind of a strange network firewall issue, but never mind, now it's resolved. And I rerun pretty much exact same settings. First I needed to load the AC module itself, then I defined the step 0, then I first deleted the previously created service from the past, so AC delete and so on. Then here I rerun the whole thing, so I created a new service and then executed it with the AC minus start. That gave me a beacon for system user obviously, and now as you can see it works quite nice. So I can first do sleep 0, then I can actually need to load it first. So let's go over sleep, tasket. Alright, and now we can do sleep 0. Now, in case you didn't add your command initially when the payload is created, that's how you can dynamically load them in the Apple agent. So you define load, you choose your command, you wait a little bit of time, and then your code is compiled, and now you can invoke it. As you can see, the beacon is now working pretty nice. I can do who am I even though I don't have the command. I can do help pretty much what any command I want and operate with the beacon as it was executed normally. So thank you once again for the video. I really appreciate your watching, and if you enjoyed the video, if you learned something new and think that content is useful, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to my channel, and I'll definitely see you on the next one. See ya!